2, 1.
I'm Suzanne Mitchell, the director of ROSA, which stands for Ramapo Organized for Sustainability and a Safe Aquifer, and this is Dan Richmond, who's the attorney from Zarin and Steinmetz representing ROSA in our legal action against scenic development and the town of Ramapo for their development plans on the Patrick Farm. We're here today because we want to tell you that we're so pleased with Judge Walsh's decision to suspend the current town of Ramapo Planning Board approvals on the Patrick Farm development project. You know, when we founded our not-for-profit ROSA more than 3 years ago, we were determined to stay true to our cause by pointing out all the environmental issues related to such an unsustainable plan by employing a fact-based approach to our advocacy and working with a legal team that would represent and present our findings before the court. ROSA maintains that those who want to build high-density housing must consider the environmental impact on the land. Our future depends on it. There's no denying that we are growing by leaps and bounds in Rockland, and especially in Ramapo. And there comes a point where we all must stand up for the land. Without Rosa's steadfast fight in court, these trees behind us would not still be standing. Many people ask, what does this mean for Ramapo's future? Well, I don't have a crystal ball, and nor do I ever want to predict the future. But what I do feel confident in saying, especially in light of Judge Walsh's recent decision, is that thoughtful, factual approaches to defending the environment and community character from the threat of unsustainable development does lead to positive results. I can tell you that throughout the 3 years, I am consistently told by naysayers ROSA will never win, especially in Rockland County. Well, if Judge Walsh's most recent decision is any indication of ROSA's positive messaging, then I will say it again today. Yes, we will, and yes, we can win. I also want to point out that this is the second victory we've had in Rockland County Supreme Court. But I also want to remind people that it's not over yet. I'm convinced the developer will try to defend his right to build on this land, and we will continue to uphold our end of the bargain with our neighbors, supporters, and our collective community, a community that stretches far beyond Ramapo and even our Rockland County borders. ROSA will continue on the path we set out on 3 years ago and rely on local, state, and federal agencies to conduct their due diligence as we defend our rights as citizens to protect our shared water supply, natural resources, and our community character. Last week, we were all reminded of the global climate crisis. It was on the front page of every newspaper, blog, and television program. It appeared as an issue that seemed so impossible to reverse that no end to this environmental catastrophe seemed plausible. I then heard a report on NPR that talked about the fact that it will be local communities, impassioned environmentalists working on a local level on micro projects like the Patrick Farm that will eventually curb our climate crisis. And it went on to say these local actions will have some of the greatest positive impacts for our future. I smiled after hearing that NPR report as I was reminded that ROSA, along with all of our supporters, is part of the bigger picture as we seek to put a cap on unsustainable development. ROSA will have an impact on your future and the future of our planet. And Dan, if you want to elaborate at all on the case, that would be great.
Good afternoon, my name is Daniel Richmond. I'm with the law firm Zarin and Steinmetz. We represent ROSA and the petitioners on this matter, and including the Hillcrest Fire Department. We are extremely pleased that Judge Walsh suspended the Planning Board's approvals for the Patrick Farm project. As a result of ROSA's diligent efforts, the Rockland County Supreme Court recognized that the United States Army Corps of Engineers never issued a formal jurisdictional determination for the site. This means that contrary to the Ramapo Planning Board's findings, the Army Corps never had an opportunity to determine the scope of wetlands on the project site or to assess the impact of the project on those wetlands. As the Army Corps has written, however, the project appears to involve potential fill to federally regulated wetlands. As the court recognized as a result, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the Rockland County Sewer District will not issue approvals for the project. As ROSA has argued, the applicant's failure to fully delineate the wetlands on the site is prima facie proof that the Ramapo Planning Board failed to rationally consider the project's impacts on wetlands, which are particularly important on this site, which contains aquifer resources that serve a much wider community. We are also pleased that the court remitted the matter to the Planning Board to consider public safety issues. As the court recognized, the town code requires that the distance between two main buildings on the site be no less than that taller of one of the buildings. The project buildings, however, appear to violate this, and we are grateful that the Rockland County Supreme Court is compelling the Ramapo Planning Board to consider this issue as well. ROSA looks forward to appearing back before the Planning Board and explaining the project's unmitigated impacts, and is confident that a rational review of the project will result in much smarter development. Thank you.